The Intergalactic Peace Summit was supposed to be a symbol of unity, a place where the greatest minds and leaders of the galaxy could negotiate peace, settle grievances, and ensure stability among the countless species that roamed the stars. The location was the Celestial Concord, an ancient space station orbiting the gas giant Xiphos 9, positioned in neutral space. It was a massive structure, an architectural marvel crafted by the enigmatic centuries ago, with glowing crystalline corridors and gravity-defying chambers that shifted depending on the species inhabiting them. For most races, it was a place of political games and posturing. For humanity, however, this summit carried unfinished business. Admiral Elias Wren of the United Terran Federation sat rigidly at the negotiating table. His steel-gray uniform bore no insignias of honor, with only a single red stripe on his sleeve, symbolizing the countless human lives lost in wars fought far from Earth. He scanned the assembled delegates, each representing a species with its own agenda. The reptilian Zorvath, the insectoid Karak, the towering, war-hardened Lorvex Dominion, and a dozen others. And then there was the Talrix hierarchy, the faction humanity had come to confront. Seated across from him was Primarch Zalvoran, an avian-like alien with deep purple feathers and piercing golden eyes. His kind were known for their tactical brilliance, their ability to manipulate, and their ruthless efficiency. They had fought humanity in a brutal war nearly 30 years ago, a war that had ended not in victory, but in an uneasy ceasefire. And yet they still held prisoners. Thousands of captured human soldiers, pilots, and civilians never returned. Admiral Wren's voice was calm but carried the weight of unshaken authority. The United Terran Federation demands the immediate return of all human prisoners still held by the Talrix hierarchy. A silence fell over the room. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others watched with interest, knowing that if the Talrix refused, things could escalate. Primarch Zalvoran exhaled slowly, his golden eyes narrowing. The conflict ended 3 decades ago, Admiral. The fate of those prisoners was never confirmed. Lies. Wren had intelligence reports, intercepted communications, proof that humans were still held in Talrix prison facilities, used as test subjects, forced labor, or worse. Then let's confirm it now, Wren said coldly. We want them back. Every single one of them. The Primarch's beak barely twitched. That is not possible. A murmur spread through the room. Some species, like the Kyrak, showed no reaction. The Lorvex Dominion warriors merely exchanged glances as if waiting to see what humanity would do. Wren leaned forward, placing both hands on the smooth obsidian table. Make it possible. The Talrix leader remained unmoved. You are in no position to make demands, Admiral? Silence stretched between them like a blade's edge. Then Wren spoke again, his voice quiet but deadly. You misunderstand, Primarch. This is not a demand. This is a warning. A flicker of hesitation flashed in Zalvoran's eyes. The Primarch had studied humanity before. He had fought against them. But even now, he did not grasp what was happening. He was about to find out. Before he could speak, a low rumble shook the station. A sound that did not belong to the Celestial Concord's usual hum of engines. The lights flickered. Some delegates turned toward the vast windows lining the chamber, revealing the endless void of space. And then they saw it. A fleet. Not just any fleet, the largest assembly of human warships ever gathered in neutral space. Hundreds of vessels, from sleek destroyers to massive dreadnoughts, emerging from warp like spectral leviathans. Their hulls bore no insignia. Their weapons were fully armed. Wren watched as realization dawned on the Primarch's face. You think you can negotiate with us as if we are weak, the Admiral said, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. You believe we will forget our own people, that we will let this go. He gestured toward the viewport. That is not how humanity works. The Vindicator-class battleship Halcyon loomed over the station, its colossal frame blocking out the light from Xiphos 9. It was not here to negotiate. It was here to make a statement. Some of the alien delegates stiffened in fear. Others sat frozen, realizing that the humans were done talking. Zalvoran's voice was quieter now. What is the meaning of this? Ren exhaled. This is humanity's final request. His words were calm, yet they carried the weight of an unspoken ultimatum. The Talrics could either return the prisoners or face consequences no alien had ever seen before. Inside the command center of the flagship Halcyon, the atmosphere was charged with both determination and an undercurrent of anxiety. Advanced holo displays bathed the room in ghostly light as streams of tactical data and intercepted communications scrolled across translucent screens. Commander Marla Reeves stood over a central projection, her eyes tracing the intricate web of enemy fleet formations that the sensors had begun to reveal. Every data point was a promise of impending confrontation, a silent challenge issued by the Talric's hierarchy. In hushed tones and measured steps, the crew worked to recalibrate their positioning in the vast emptiness of space. The human fleet, a living embodiment of decades of sacrifice and ambition, was not merely a collection of warships. It was an extension of the indomitable spirit that had survived countless conflicts. Lieutenant Darius Cole, stationed at a secondary console, broke the tense silence with a low, resolute remark. "Commander, the outer sensors indicate a subtle but deliberate repositioning in the Talric's flank. It appears they're setting up for a hidden maneuver." Reeves's gaze did not waver as she replied, "Let them maneuver. Our strategy remains unchanged. We stand prepared to intercept any threat and to reclaim our own." The room vibrated with the quiet hum of systems at work. Every officer present knew that the stakes were no longer limited to a diplomatic standoff. They were on the cusp of rewriting an ancient chapter of intergalactic history. Memories of past wars, the loss of countless comrades, and the lingering echoes of betrayal fused together, reinforcing the resolute commitment to reclaim what was lost. Meanwhile, far from the controlled chaos aboard the Halcyon, the halls of the Celestial Concord were awash with uncertainty. The alien delegates, gathered in ornate chambers of crystalline design, exchanged furtive glances and measured words. In the upper echelons of the Talric's leadership, Primarch Salvoran's mind raced as he re-examined the calculations of this new human resolve. His advisors, steeped in traditions of calculated cruelty and stoic diplomacy, whispered in tones laced with both admiration and apprehension. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for vengeance and their willingness to redefine the rules of engagement. Back at the human flagship, Admiral Elias Wren paced slowly before the panoramic viewport that framed the vast cosmos beyond. His thoughts were as turbulent as the swirling nebulae visible in the distance. Every gleam of distant starlight rekindled memories of battles past, the faces of those lost, and the voices of those who had sworn never to be forgotten. His personal burden was interwoven with a collective resolve. This fleet was not an instrument of conquest alone, but a clarion call for justice and reclamation. An alert suddenly cut through the subdued focus of the command center, a pulse of encrypted data signaling that the Talrics were activating dormant defense protocols along a secluded sector of space. The display morphed into a shifting tapestry of threat zones, each marker a silent promise of an imminent counterattack. Reeves tapped rapidly at her console, her fingers dancing over the controls as she recalculated intercept courses and contingency plans. "All units, adjust to red alert. Monitor sectors 7 through 9. We must not allow them the element of surprise," she ordered in a voice that blended urgency with calm precision. In the moments that followed, the entire crew of the Halcyon transformed into an interconnected network of resolve and efficiency. Every officer, from the seasoned veterans to the fresh-faced analysts, understood that this was more than a battle. It was a defining moment for humanity. The fleet outside, now even more impressive against the backdrop of a star-strewn void, served as a visible testament to the unyielding determination that had brought them this far. As silent minutes stretched into an eternity, the two forces, human ingenuity and alien stratagem, balanced on the edge of conflict. In the dim glow of the command center, the combined might of humanity's will seemed almost palpable. With every calculated move and every unwavering command, The human fleet was preparing not just for a tactical victory, but for a profound statement that the spirit of mankind could never be subdued. Admiral Wren's eyes, steely and unwavering, fixed on the slowly advancing Talrix formations visible through the viewport. The calm before the storm was deceptively fragile, and every heartbeat echoed the promise of retribution. In that charged silence, the humans affirmed their resolve. They would reclaim what was rightfully theirs, and in doing so, they would redefine intergalactic power dynamics for generations to come. In the depths of space, as the human fleet hovered in silent defiance, a new plan was taking shape on the bridge of the Halcyon. Shadows danced across sleek consoles while officers coordinated what would be humanity's first decisive move against the Talrix. The operation was shrouded in secrecy and urgency, a covert rescue mission designed to recover the prisoners and shatter the complacency of an alien enemy. Admiral Elias Wren, his eyes fixed on the ever-changing tactical displays, addressed his senior staff in a low, deliberate tone. Operation Nightfall commences in T-minus 30 minutes. We're not launching a full-scale assault just yet. Our objective is surgical. A small, elite team will infiltrate the primary Talrix outpost and secure evidence of our people's captivity. His words carried a steely determination that permeated the room. Every moment counts. Across the bridge, Commander Marla Reeves and Lieutenant Darius Cole worked in tandem to finalize the mission's intricate details. Reeves outlined the operation using a holographic map of the enemy facility, its complex layout illuminated in cool blue tones. The target lies deep within the outer perimeter. We've identified 3 key access points, each guarded by an energy barrier and automated defenses. We must neutralize these in sequence. Cole's fingers danced across his console. Sensors indicate that the Talrix are unaware of our precise intentions. Their patrols are routine, but the recent activation of defense protocols suggests they're fortifying their perimeter. Timing is everything. A brief pause followed before he added, "We have a narrow window to disable their detection arrays before reinforcements arrive." Meanwhile, in a concealed section of the Halcyon, a specialized unit known as the Nightshades prepared for insertion. Led by Captain Ria Solis, a veteran of countless covert operations, the team was comprised of specialists trained in stealth, electronic warfare, and close-quarters combat. Each member's resolve was as palpable as the tension in the air. In a hushed briefing room, Captain Solis reviewed the mission parameters with her team. "Our task is twofold," she explained, her voice both calm and resolute. "First, infiltrate the Talrix compound undetected. Second, locate and extract any prisoners, along with critical data that confirms their illegal detention. We're not here to engage in open combat. Our objective is recovery and proof. Stick to the shadows." A young operative, eyes steeled with determination, murmured, "What if they detect us?" Solis met the operative's gaze without hesitation. "Then we adapt. We've trained for every contingency. Trust in your skills and in each other." The murmurs of agreement that followed were as much a promise as they were a declaration of intent. As the final countdown began, the Halcyon shuttles separated from the main fleet, slipping silently into the darkness. Outside, the celestial tapestry of stars bore witness to the unfolding drama. The alien outpost, a cluster of spired structures and pulsing energy fields, loomed ahead, a fortress of technological marvel and ominous intent. Inside the shuttle, Captain Solis and her team moved as a single entity. Every shadow was a potential cover, every flicker on the control panel a signal to proceed. The shuttle's interior was bathed in a dim red glow, underscoring the gravity of the mission. The team's earpieces carried the steady, reassuring voice of Reeves. "Maintain radio silence until contact is made. We are monitoring your progress." As the shuttle docked with a lesser-known access port on the outpost's perimeter, the Nightshades prepared to disembark. The silence was almost suffocating, a mix of anticipation and the hum of distant energy barriers. Solis led the way, her form barely visible against the backdrop of pulsating machinery and the eerie luminescence of alien architecture. Outside, The facility's exterior was a labyrinth of reflective surfaces and interlocking energy grids. The team advanced with precision using the pre-planned routes. At one critical juncture, a sensor blinked to life, triggering a cascade of alerts in the bridge back on the Halcyon. Cole's voice came through the comm channel, crisp yet urgent. "We've got a spike in enemy detection. Adjust your pace." Every step brought them closer to the inner sanctum where the prisoners were believed to be held. With each passing moment, the risks multiplied. Hidden cameras, pressure-sensitive floors, and silent sentinels of light guarded the corridors. Yet the Nightshades moved undeterred, their confidence a product of rigorous training and unyielding resolve. In a narrow corridor, they encountered their first obstacle, a reinforced door humming with an alien energy. Solus paused, scanning the digital lock interface. "Give me a minute," she whispered. Her deft fingers worked on a portable bypass device, exploiting a brief vulnerability in the encryption. A soft click signaled success. The door slid open, revealing a dim chamber lined with rows of cells. Inside one cell, a pale hand reached out from behind reinforced glass. For a heartbeat, time seemed to slow as human eyes met Solus's steely determination. Without a word, she acknowledged the silent plea. The rescue had begun. Back on the Halcyon, the command center monitored every movement with bated breath. The human fleet, waiting in tense suspension, symbolized the promise of retribution and the indomitable spirit of mankind. Tonight, in the quiet corridors of an alien outpost, a single spark of human defiance would ignite a chain reaction that no alien had ever anticipated. After the initial breach, Captain Rhea Solis led the Nightshades deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the Talrix outpost. The metallic walls pulsed with alien energy, their surfaces etched with symbols that seemed to shift in the flickering light. Each step resonated with a quiet determination, a steady heartbeat echoing through corridors designed to instill both awe and fear. The team moved as one, shadows against shadows, intent on reaching the chamber where the dark evidence of human captivity was stored. At a junction, they encountered an imposing energy barrier, a shimmering wall of blue light that vibrated with latent power. Lieutenant Mara knelt beside an integrated control panel, her hands deftly dancing over the alien interface. "I'm overriding the barrier," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "We have a 90-second window before the system recalibrates." The Nightshades exchanged resolute nods as Mara's modifications began to take effect, and with a subtle shift, the barrier dimmed to a translucent veil, allowing passage. Beyond the barrier, the corridor opened into a vast, dimly lit hall. The architecture was more refined here, a fusion of organic curves and precise geometric patterns that hinted at centuries of meticulous design. The air was cooler, laced with the hum of hidden machinery and the quiet vigilance of automated sensors. Every step deeper heightened the tension. The team knew that behind every corner could lie detection drones or dormant defense systems waiting to be awakened. Without warning, a low, melodic alarm echoed softly through the hall, a signal that their presence had disturbed the facility's equilibrium. The sound was almost hypnotic, but its meaning was clear. The security system was now on alert. The team halted, every sense straining in the sudden silence. Captain Solus exchanged a brief glance with Mara, whose eyes flickered with both determination and caution. "Countermeasures now," Solus ordered in a hushed tone. Mara's fingers flew over her portable console, transmitting a series of rapid commands. Her device emitted bursts of erratic code, masking the alarm's signature with a cascade of digital noise. Gradually, the alarm's clear note was swallowed by a chaotic symphony of static, and the sensor's indicators dimmed to a near-normal state. The corridor exhaled a collective, tense breath, and the team resumed its cautious advance. At the end of the hall, a set of reinforced doors marked the entrance to the containment chamber. These doors were adorned with cryptic glyphs, each one a silent testament to the facility's foreboding purpose. With practiced precision, Solus activated a compact device that emitted a localized electromagnetic pulse, causing the door's locking mechanism to disengage. The doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing an expansive chamber bathed in the glow of emergency lighting and the soft hum of alien data streams. Inside, rows of containment cells stretched along the walls. Some cells were dark and empty, grim reminders of those who had already been removed, while others housed faint silhouettes behind reinforced glass. In the center of the chamber, a series of digital terminals displayed looping surveillance footage and encrypted logs. These terminals held the damning records of human prisoners, data logs of abductions, experimental notes, and video evidence that detailed the cruelty inflicted upon countless souls. An operative named Vero knelt at one of the terminals, his eyes scanning rapidly through cascading streams of information. "These logs confirm everything," he whispered, his tone mixing sorrow with a burning resolve. "Dates, locations, even the command codes, every detail is here." As he began downloading the data onto a secure drive, another operative, Sienna, positioned herself near the door, her hand never straying far from her sidearm. The team was acutely aware that every second spent here increased the risk of detection. A sudden, deep rumble vibrated through the chamber, as if the very structure of the facility was awakening to their intrusion. The ambient hum intensified, and a series of red indicator lights began to blink erratically along the corridor. Captain Solis's voice cut through the rising tension, firm and unwavering. "We've triggered a higher state of alert. Secure the evidence and prepare for immediate extraction. In 3 minutes, we move out through the southern corridor. Stay sharp." In that fraught moment, the chamber transformed from a repository of hidden horrors into a battlefield of urgency and stealth. Each member of the Nightshades felt the weight of the mission, a responsibility to reclaim the lost and to expose the cruelty hidden behind the Talrix's enigmatic facade. The digital records they secured were more than just files. They were the irrefutable proof that would demand accountability and fuel humanity's resolve for retribution. As Vero's download neared completion, every eye in the room was fixed on the slowly brightening indicators along the corridor. The once silent containment chamber now buzzed with the energy of imminent confrontation. The Nightshades, with hearts pounding yet spirits unyielding, braced themselves for the next phase of their daring mission. A calculated extraction that would test every skill they possessed and herald a turning point in the war between humanity and the alien oppressors. With the data secured and the exit plan firmly in place, Captain Solis issued the final command, low and resolute. Extraction in 3, 2, 1. The Nightshades melted into the shadows, leaving behind a chamber now marked by both the echoes of past suffering and the promise of human vengeance, a promise that would soon reverberate through the very fabric of the galaxy. The moment of extraction had arrived. In the dimly lit corridors of the Talrix outpost, alarms wailed in a discordant symphony that mingled with the pounding of hearts and the hum of alien machinery. Captain Ria Solis and her Nightshades had secured the damning evidence. But now, the price of discovery became clear. Their presence had triggered a violent countermeasure. As the team retraced their path from the containment chamber, the corridor vibrated with a heightened sense of urgency. The soft, deliberate footsteps they had maintained moments ago were now punctuated by the rapid clatter of automated defenses activating along the walls. Solis's voice, calm yet laced with steel, cut through the clamor. "Move! We have exactly 3 minutes before the enemy converges. Keep low and stick to the shadows." At her signal, the operatives split into 2 units. One team covered the retreat toward the designated extraction route, while the other maintained a rear guard to delay the impending surge of enemy reinforcements. Lieutenant Mara and Darius Cole, communicating over their secure channel, monitored sensor feeds as patterns of red and orange indicators spiked along the corridor network. "Solis, we're seeing multiple patrol units mobilizing from the north wing," reported Cole in a terse whisper. "We're on borrowed time." The Nightshades advanced through twisting hallways that now pulsed with the erratic glow of disrupted energy fields. Every step was a dance with danger. Hidden turrets emerged from recesses, and beams of concentrated light cut across their paths. In one particularly narrow passage, a cascade of laser fire shattered the silence. An operative, Kellen, instinctively dove behind a bulkhead as sparks rained where his body might have been. "Cover me, I'm going in," he shouted, voice strained with urgency. His comrades quickly provided suppressive fire using compact plasma disruptors, buying him precious seconds to disable an overhead turret. Elsewhere, in the corridor leading to the extraction bay, Captain Solis led a small team. The passageway was fraught with collapsed sections and flickering control panels. She paused at a junction, pressing her back against a cool metallic wall while scanning for movement. A shadow flitted across a distant wall. "Hold positions," she ordered quietly, her hand resting on the hilt of her sidearm. "We cannot afford a misstep." A brief static-laced reply crackled over the comlink. "Eyes on the flank. 2 units approaching fast." The tension in the air was palpable as the distant sound of mechanical clamor and the shudder of the outpost's structural integrity grew louder. The facility's defenses, now fully engaged, were reconfiguring the environment into a maze of hazards. With the extraction time slipping away, Solis adjusted her plan. "We'll take an alternate route through the service ducts. Mara, initiate a lock on the nearest vent access. Everyone, be prepared for tight quarters." Navigating the cramped, claustrophobic service ducts was like threading a needle in a collapsing tapestry of metal and energy. The walls, slick with condensation and dust, barely held the beam of their flashlights. The confined passage amplified every whisper and every rapid heartbeat. An unexpected jolt, an explosion from a nearby corridor sent shudders through the ductwork. "Damn it! Hold on," Solis barked, steadying her team as a burst of debris rattled their progress. Meanwhile, outside the labyrinth, the human fleet loomed like spectral guardians. The colossal Vindicator-class battleship Halcyon maintained a vigilant watch over the outpost, its massive turret sweeping across the dark expanse of space. Fleet Command relayed updates in urgent tones. Enemy reinforcements were converging on the outpost's surface, their formation tightening like a noose. "They're not going to let you leave unscathed," came the stern voice of Admiral Wren over the comlink, a reminder that the stakes were higher than any one life. Inside the ducts, the Nightshades finally reached an access hatch that led directly to the extraction corridor. Solis motioned sharply, "Open it now!" As the hatch slid open, a burst of harsh white light spilled into the narrow passage. Outside, the corridor was a chaotic battlefield, a blend of scattered debris, intermittent energy discharges, and the relentless advance of Talric's security drones. The team regrouped in a tight formation, exchanging fleeting nods that conveyed both determination and the unspoken fear of what might come next. "Extraction shuttle is en route," murmured one of the operatives, checking his wrist communicator. "ETA 1 minute." In that fleeting moment, every second stretched, weighted with the possibility of capture or worse. The sound of synchronized footsteps, mechanical clattering, and distant shouts signaled that the enemy was closing in. Solis's voice, firm and resolute, cut through the chaos. "This is our moment. Secure the evidence at all costs, then fall back to the shuttle. Remember, our objective is to bring proof back home. We hold the line until extraction." The ensuing moments were a blur of adrenaline and desperate precision. Under a hail of energy bolts, the Nightshades pushed forward, weaving between cover and fire. The corridor, once a silent conduit, became a stage for a fierce struggle between human determination and alien might. Every fallen beam and every burst of plasma underscored the brutal reality of the conflict. Finally, the extraction shuttle arrived, a sleek, matte-black vessel that hovered at the corridor's end, its bay doors yawning open like a promise of salvation. One by one, the exhausted but unbowed team sprinted toward it, each step a defiant rejection of the enemy's tyranny. As the shuttle's ramp descended, a deafening explosion reverberated from behind them, forcing them to press into the vessel's relative safety. The shuttle shuddered as it lifted off, leaving behind a maelstrom of alien fire and collapsing infrastructure. In the tense silence that followed, the team gathered inside the shuttle, clutching the secured evidence that would soon expose the horrors hidden within the outpost. Captain Solis allowed herself a brief moment of reflection amid the chaos, a silent acknowledgement of both the cost of their mission and the burning resolve that had seen them through. The shuttle's viewport offered a fleeting glimpse of the raging battle below, a reminder that their extraction was only a temporary reprieve in a war that was far from over. "Status check," Solis said softly, scanning the faces of her weary crew. "We did it, but this is just the beginning." The truth in her words was as stark as the void outside, a truth that would soon ripple across the cosmos and ignite a reaction no alien had ever anticipated. Back aboard the Halcyon, the mood in the command center was electric, a blend of steely determination and simmering outrage. The shuttle's successful extraction had brought not only the damning evidence, but also a tangible reminder of the atrocities hidden within the enemy's walls. The digital logs and images, now decrypted and displayed in stark detail across holographic monitors, left no room for doubt. Human lives had been shattered, and the Talrics had been complicit in unspeakable cruelties. Admiral Elias Wren stood before the main screen, his eyes dark with resolve as he surveyed the grim data. Every file, every image was a testament to the suffering inflicted upon his people. The footage revealed not only the cramped cells and the inhumane conditions, but also scenes of desperate resistance, a silent rebellion against a fate dictated by cruelty. In that moment, the evidence transcended its digital form. It became a clarion call for retribution. The room fell into a heavy silence as senior officers absorbed the weight of the revelations. Lieutenant Commander Zara, head of intelligence, broke the quiet with a measured tone. "These records are irrefutable. They confirm that the Talrics have orchestrated a network of facilities designed to subjugate an experiment on our own." Her words, though sparse, echoed through the chamber like a judge's gavel, sealing the fate of diplomacy. Admiral Wren's response was immediate and uncompromising. "We have waited long enough for words. Prepare all strike forces. Identify every node in the enemy's network, every outpost, every command center, and bring them down systematically." His command was not merely tactical. It was a decree of justice, a promise that the era of silent suffering was over. Within the tactical planning chamber, holographic maps of enemy installations hovered in midair, each one marked with critical vulnerabilities. Officers worked with a frenetic precision, aligning their strategies to the new intelligence. The analysis revealed a sprawling labyrinth of fortified bases, interconnected by a web of energy barriers and surveillance grids. The Talrics had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now every ship in the fleet pulsed with the anticipation of a counteroffensive that was both surgical and unrelenting. In the dim corridors of the Halcyon, away from the bustle of the command center, the human crew braced themselves for what lay ahead. Every officer, engineer, and pilot understood that the extracted data was more than evidence. It was the spark that ignited a revolution. The bridge hummed with urgent activity as tactical officers relayed orders and recalibrated targeting systems and confirmed the status of the fleet. Amid the steady rhythm of commands and computer beeps, a palpable sense of unity emerged. This was a battle fought not just for territory, but for the very soul of humanity. The enemy, too, was stirring. Automated sensors on the Talrics outposts detected the ripple of human retribution, and encrypted transmissions hinted at a rapid mobilization of forces. But for the humans, every new alert was a challenge, a call to push forward, to dismantle the network of oppression piece by piece. "Prepare for simultaneous strikes," came Wren's cold, unwavering directive. "Our objective is clear: dismantle their command infrastructure and liberate every captive. This is no longer about negotiation. It is about liberation and retribution." As orders rippled through the fleet, a reconnaissance drone transmitted fresh images of another enemy facility, an imposing structure set against the void, its architecture a dark mirror to the cruelty within. The images showed human figures confined behind energy barriers, their eyes hollow, yet burning with a glimmer of defiance. The sight was a catalyst, For every soul on the Halcyon, it reinforced the truth that the war was personal and unyielding. In the war room, a hush fell as the weight of their mission sank in. The Halcyon's hull vibrated with the force of impending action, its systems primed for the counterstrike. Every detail had been meticulously planned, from the precise coordinates of enemy nodes to the deployment of specialized assault teams designed for rapid surgical strikes. The evidence had transformed into a weapon, its power amplified by the collective will of a people who refused to remain victims. In that charged atmosphere, Admiral Wren allowed himself a brief, steeled breath. The mission was not just to reclaim what was lost, but to send a resounding message across the galaxy. Humanity would no longer tolerate tyranny. The data secured during Operation Nightfall had become the embodiment of their resolve, and now as the fleet surged forward in formation, every officer knew that the balance of power was shifting. The Halcyon led the vanguard into a darkness punctuated by the distant glow of enemy defenses, its engines a low, determined roar that promised swift and unyielding action. In that moment, the ship was more than a vessel. It was a beacon of defiance, carrying the weight of every life lost and every promise made to those still suffering. The counterstrike had begun, and with it a tide of retribution that no alien would ever expect. The battle lines had been drawn, and as the human fleet surged forward, the darkness of space erupted in a violent ballet of light and plasma. Admiral Elias Wren's voice resonated through the command center aboard the Halcyon, firm and resolute. All strike forces, execute Phase 1. Target the central command node of the Talrix. This is our moment to shatter their control and liberate the oppressed. Across the bridge, tactical displays transformed into a dazzling array of red alert signals. The enemy's command facility, a sprawling complex of twisting spires and pulsating energy conduits, loomed ahead like a malignant heart. The facility's defenses, once silent and inscrutable, now glowed ominously with activation sequences. In the vacuum of space, fighter squadrons danced around enemy capital ships, their agile craft weaving between laser fire and searing plasma bolts. Lieutenant Cole, piloting a nimble interceptor, radioed in as he dodged a barrage of enemy fire. "Engaging countermeasures, Admiral. We're breaking their formation, diverting power from their shield arrays." His voice, laced with adrenaline and determination, was met with a curt acknowledgement from the command center. Meanwhile, deep within the enemy stronghold, a specialized human assault team led by Captain Ria Solis was already on the move. Their objective was clear: infiltrate the inner sanctum of the command facility and disable its neural core, a massive data conduit that regulated every automated defense system. Solis and her team advanced through corridors lined with shifting holographic symbols and intricate circuitry, every step echoing with a weight of retribution. The passageways were a labyrinth of engineered precision and lethal traps. A sudden cascade of red warning lights bathed the corridor in a sinister glow as an alarm triggered the facility's last line of defense. Solis's voice, steady and unyielding, cut through the rising cacophony. "Deploy countermeasures. Disrupt the sensor grid. We cannot afford to be compromised now." With practiced efficiency, her team scattered to rig portable EMP devices along critical junctures, their synchronized actions creating a momentary blackout in the facility's surveillance systems. In the command center, Admiral Wren monitored every movement. The digital maps revealed clusters of enemy reinforcements converging on the central node, their trajectories calculated and relentless. "Hold your positions," he commanded, his eyes never leaving the holographic display. "Our strike teams must reach the core before they fully mobilize. We're counting on your precision and resolve." Outside, the vast fleet of human warships formed a protective ring around the enemy installation. The imposing silhouettes of dreadnoughts and frigates illuminated the void, their weapons primed to deliver surgical strikes at a moment's notice. The coordinated assault from space was designed not only to cripple the enemy's command, but also to divert reinforcements away from the infiltrators. A burst of synchronized energy from multiple vessels sent shockwaves through the enemy's defensive grid, creating gaps in their once impenetrable barrier. Back on the ground, Captain Solis and her team reached a heavily guarded access shaft leading to the command center's core chamber. The tension in the claustrophobic passage was palpable as they navigated narrow, winding ducts filled with humming cables and flickering control panels. "This is it," whispered one of the operatives, his voice betraying both awe and fear. The ambient hum of alien machinery grew louder, interspersed with the distant clamor of battle overhead. At the shaft's terminus, the team paused as the massive, reinforced door loomed before them, a barrier that separated them from the enemy's nerve center. Solis placed a hand on the panel, her eyes scanning the cryptic alien script that served as its lock. "Bypass initiated," she murmured, fingers dancing over a compact futuristic device. With a soft chime and a flash of blue light, the door slid open, revealing a cavernous chamber where streams of data flowed like luminescent rivers. Inside, a towering central console pulsed with raw energy, its holographic display revealing the intricate web of command that bound the Talric's forces. Solis's team moved swiftly to secure their positions, setting charges to sever the conduit linking the core to the broader network. Time was their enemy. Each second brought enemy reinforcements ever closer. Above, in the vastness of space, the enemy's response grew desperate. Automated turrets erupted from hidden alcoves in the facility's exterior, their beams carving lethal patterns across the void. The human fleet countered in kind. Precision strikes targeted critical support systems, their explosive impacts rippling through the enemy's structure. The air of suspense was electrified by the rhythm of battle, every maneuver a calculated dance between chaos and order. A tense silence fell within the command chamber of the infiltrators as the countdown to detonation began. "Stand by," Solis ordered, her voice unwavering despite the roaring conflict outside. "Once these charges go off, the core will be offline. We move in immediately after." The digital clock ticked down in relentless increments. At the final moment, a series of controlled explosions rocked the chamber. The central console shuddered violently as its holographic display distorted into a chaotic dance of disintegrating data. The reverberations of the blast sent shockwaves through the corridors. For a heartbeat, all was suspended. The storm of retribution paused in anticipation of its decisive blow. Then, with a surge of triumphant defiance, the facility's core imploded, its cascading energy destabilizing the enemy's command structure. In the command center aboard the Halcyon, Admiral Wren allowed himself a rare, grim smile as the holographic maps confirmed the collapse of a major enemy node. Amid the chaos, Solis's team retraced their steps, their exit marked by the flickering glow of emergency lights and the sound of distant alarms. The enemy was in disarray, a torrent of confusion that the human counterstrike had unleashed. The liberation of the captive data and the shattering of the enemy's nerve center signaled not just a tactical victory, but a turning point in a war that had long teetered on the edge of annihilation. As the human fleet maintained its formation and the ground forces began their withdrawal, the cosmos bore witness to the storm of retribution, a torrent of human ingenuity and unyielding resolve that rippled through the dark void, leaving the Talrics reeling in the wake of an unexpected and devastating counterstrike. In the aftermath of the shattered command and the swirling chaos of battle, the human fleet emerged from the dark veil of conflict, carrying with it both the burden of loss and the promise of a new beginning. The remnants of the enemy's once imposing installations drifted as broken silhouettes against the star-speckled void. A heavy silence had settled over the Halcyon, now more than ever a symbol of human resilience, a beacon of defiant light amid the endless darkness. Admiral Elias Wren stood in the bridge's quiet glow, his eyes fixed on the distant fragments of enemy technology burning like dying embers. The digital records of suffering and oppression, now widely broadcast across the galaxy, had ignited a fire of retribution and awakening. Every intercepted file and every grainy image told a story too haunting to ignore. The systematic imprisonment, the cruelty, and the abuse inflicted upon countless human lives. This evidence was not just a tally of past sins. It was the catalyst for a decisive reckoning that would redefine interstellar politics. In the command center, the atmosphere was somber, yet charged with renewed purpose. Senior officers gathered around holographic displays, their faces illuminated by shifting images of rebel outposts and collapsing Talrix structures. "Our mission has shifted," Admiral Wren declared, his voice resonating with both sorrow and steely resolve. "No longer are we merely reclaiming what was taken. We are igniting a movement, a force that will challenge tyranny at its very core." His words were not just orders, they were a promise to every life lost, a vow to never allow oppression to fester in the shadows. Across the fleet, battle-worn ships provided first-hand proof of the cost and the necessity of their actions. The human vessels, scarred yet unbowed, patrolled the edge of space like vigilant guardians. Their formations signaled a new era of readiness, one where diplomacy had given way to direct action. In secure communications channels, tactical reports flowed rapidly. Enemy reinforcements were in disarray, command nodes had been crippled, and the once impenetrable defenses of the Talrix were crumbling under the weight of human resolve. On a smaller vessel anchored near a liberated Talrix outpost, Captain Rhea Solis reviewed the aftermath with a mix of relief and caution. "The data we retrieved has spread like wildfire," she noted to her second-in-command, Commander Jalen. "What we uncovered isn't just a record of atrocities. It's a blueprint for a new order." Her eyes, reflecting both fatigue and determination, spoke of the many battles yet to be fought. But in that moment, the team understood that their sacrifice had not been in vain. They had not only shattered the enemy's command, but had also ignited hope among the oppressed. Back on Earth and across Allied systems, the revelations spurred by humanity's counterstrike began to reshape interstellar alliances. In bustling command centers and quiet diplomatic halls, leaders and citizens alike grappled with the stark reality of hidden oppressions. Once complacent or complicit governments were forced to confront uncomfortable truths. The global outcry for justice reverberated through every communication network, pushing for swift, systemic change. Protesters and peacekeepers, scientists and scholars, all joined in the chorus demanding accountability and transparency. The culmination of these efforts was symbolized by a monumental assembly convened at a newly established intergalactic peace hub, a neutral space station that now served as the epicenter of reform. Here, representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered to draft accords based on truth, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to dismantle the old orders of tyranny. It was a precarious but hopeful start to an era defined not by ancient grudges, but by a collective vision for a better, fairer cosmos. In the final hours of that turbulent day, as the Halcyon sailed steadily toward this beacon of renewal, Admiral Wren allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. The stars, once distant and indifferent, now seemed to whisper the promise of redemption. Each scar on the ship, every calculated risk taken, was a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. They had transformed pain into purpose, despair into determination. In that silent communion with the cosmos, it became clear. The dawn of reckoning was not an end. It was the beginning of a new chapter for all who dared to dream of justice. As the fleet pressed forward, leaving behind the dark chaos of war for the uncertain promise of peace, a single truth shone with unwavering clarity. Humanity had triggered a reaction no alien had ever expected, and in doing so, had set the stage for a future where every being might finally live free from the shadows of oppression.